Hey, Josh here. On today's episode of the Infographic Show, we're asking, what if a modern bomber fought at D-Day? Oh, we're doing this again? Scenario 1. Hans, our stereotypical German soldier created by an unimaginative writer, sits in a shell-shocked concrete bunker overlooking Omaha Beach. It's just after 6 a.m. on June 6, 1944. He has just survived hell on Earth. Bombs dropped from thousands of aircraft, a naval bombardment so loud it could be heard across the channel in England. His ears are still bleeding, his hands are still shaking, but somehow he's alive. His MG-42 is intact and the Americans are about to come ashore directly into his field of fire. Maybe things won't be so bad after all. Yeah, about that. Suddenly his world goes black. Through the slit of his bunker came a strike so precise it could have had its own zip code. It was dropped from a modern B-1B Lancer carrying 75,000 pounds of lean, mean ordnance. Every weapon is GPS guided to within feet of its target. The Lancer is flying so high that every flak gun on the Atlantic Wall, including the 88mm Flak 36 with its effective ceiling of 26,000 feet, couldn't touch it on its best day. That's the uncomfortable truth about dropping a modern bomber into 1944. It's probably more of a demonstration than a fight. The German military's most sophisticated air defense radar in 1944, the Würzburg, operated at frequencies that modern electronic warfare suites treat as background noise. With their radar rendered useless, German flak gunners would be forced to rely on optical aiming. They needed to see the aircraft, hear it, and track it visually to have any chance of hitting it. Good luck with that. The B-1B, flying in its combat profile at 40,000 feet, clears the effective ceiling of every anti-aircraft gun on the Atlantic Wall. The Würzburg's radar detection envelope? Well, that's now irrelevant if the aircraft's electronic countermeasures are doing their job. So Hans, he never heard it coming. He never saw it coming. Nobody in 1944 would have. But that's the easy version. One pass, the Atlantic Wall develops several new ventilation systems exactly where Eisenhower ordered them. And someone in England gets a very short after-action report. Boring. So let's make it interesting. Before we get into our sensible scenario, and yes, that is in air quotes, I know what you're all thinking. Apparently, our writers have never once considered this in the history of these time travel videos. How is this aircraft fueled? Who's doing the pre-flight checks on a B-1B in jolly old England? Where's the maintenance crew? Where are the GBU-38 JDAMs coming from? Because remember, those are GPS-guided munitions, and GPS satellites don't exist yet in 1944. Is anyone tracking the flying hours on those turbofan engines? Does the aircrew know they're killing Nazis? Do they have a survival plan if they go down over occupied France? Their gear will surely raise some questions at the nearest German checkpoint, right? Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and just ignore all of that, as always. Though, if logistics is your thing, make sure to drop a like and subscribe. Oh, and let us know in the comments if you'd like us to follow up on the "What if a single UPS driver delivered packages during the siege of Stalingrad" video topic that we've been brainstorming in the writer's room. For the purposes of this scenario, this B-1 is fully armed, fully fueled, and the GPS works fine, because we said so. There's exactly one maintainer named Dave standing in a field somewhere in England, who's done his best to get his bomber operational, and we are all grateful for him. Everyone wave and thank Dave. Now, on to the ridiculous scenarios. Affectionately nicknamed The Bone because, well, it's just B1 spelled out without the hyphen. The Rockwell B-1 Lancer is 146 feet long. It's powered by 4 General Electric F101 afterburning turbofan engines, each producing 30,000 pounds of thrust, and it hits Mach 1.25. It carries up to 75,000 pounds of ordnance across 3 internal weapons bays, which means a single B-1B carries nearly 10 times the bomb load of a single B-17 Flying Fortress, the actual bomber the 8th Air Force was using over Normandy that morning. How's that for a flex? 2 pilots control the aircraft, another 2-man crew is doing most of the targeting work from a cockpit that looks like a video game designed by people who clearly went too far. An aircrew with that much firepower, no adult supervision, and a full tank of gas over occupied France in 1944 has several immediate options. Let's say the B-1 spots a German U-boat running in the channel and the weapons officer has a thought. The Bone happens to be carrying 84 Mark 62 quick-strike naval mines in its belly, 500-pound bottom mines equipped with magnetic and seismic sensors. They're designed to detect the hull signature of passing vessels and detonate accordingly. In 1944, German U-boats had no concept of this technology. and no countermeasures for it. They also had no way to explain to their Kriegsmarine superiors why the seafloor directly beneath them had just become a problem. The B-1 salts a half-a-mile stretch of the channel in a single pass and then turns back toward England. Somewhere below the surface, a U-boat crew is about to have a deeply theological experience. The other options? The swept-wing B-1 tasked with beach clearance makes its approach at dune height to really sell the moment. As the B-1 swoops overhead, every German soldier on the bluffs, every Allied soldier in a landing craft, and approximately 340 cows on a French dairy farm 2 miles up the coast all experience what physicists call a significant pressure event. The beach is clear. The dairy farm is not. 3 centuries of Norman cheesemaking tradition ended at 0605 on June 6, 1944. Nobody figures out why until a historian finds a confused entry in a farm ledger in 2003. The last option we'll call the Berlin Temptation. An aircrew with no mission constraints and real-time intelligence about the location of German high command looks at a map of Europe and has a thought. We'll come back to that one. Scenario 2. It's time to add some real constraints, a finite weapons load, and specific problems the real Allied operation failed to solve. Because that is where one aircraft from the future meets the limits of what one aircraft can actually do. On the morning of June 6, the German response to the Normandy landings was paralyzed, not by bombs, but by confusion. Field Marshal Erwin Rommel was home in Germany for his wife's birthday. The Panzer reserves that could have driven back the Allies to the sea were under Hitler's personal control, and nobody would wake him until nearly noon. The standing order was to not disturb the Führer in the morning. Apparently, everyone in the Wehrmacht had been conditioned by his constant mood swings to believe that following that particular rule mattered more than stopping the most consequential amphibious invasion in history. The German command infrastructure was concentrated. 7th Army headquarters at Le Mans, 84th Corps headquarters at Saint-Lô. In 1944, destroying a headquarters meant destroying the building, the radios, the staff officers, and the maps, all in the same place. The B-1B can carry a range of bunker busters, 4 2,000-pound penetrating bombs designed to punch through multiple floors of reinforced concrete before detonating. It doesn't need the building to be unprotected, it just needs the building to exist. Hit Saint-Lô at 0700, and the 84th Corps goes dark at the exact moment it most needs to function. The Panzer divisions waiting for authorization to move don't get it, since now all the phone lines are rubble. This is the lucky strike scenario, the outcome Allied planners probably prayed for when they authorized each of the almost 14,700 operational sorties on D-Day. This scenario requires real-time intelligence about which buildings contain which commanders. Headquarters frequently moved, commanders traveled. The German command net was deliberately distributed because Allied bombers had been hitting French infrastructure for weeks. Against fixed infrastructure with known coordinates, a JDAM is accurate enough that if the targeting is right, mostly just means intelligence quality, not weapons delivery. The B-1 can put a bomb through a specific window in perfect conditions. Whether the right general is sitting next to that window at 0700 on June 6th is the variable no weapon system can control. If it works, the German armored response collapses within hours, maybe even a day. If it doesn't, the B-1 has simply demolished a few French buildings with extraordinary precision. That barely bothers the German bureaucracy, but it really annoys the people who used to live there. Scenario 3. The next scenario is the one that holds up the most, and to understand why, you need to understand what exactly went wrong on the morning of June 6th. The real Allied air plan called for several hundred B-24s and B-17s to inundate German positions behind the beachhead with thousands of bombs before H-hour. The actual result was that only 3 bombs landed anywhere near the beach. The crews delayed their drop by a matter of seconds to avoid hitting the landing craft. The clouds ate their visual references, and most bombs landed in empty French farmland. The naval bombardment lasted only a fraction of what the planners requested, and it was largely ineffective against the hardened positions all the same. By the time the first wave hit the beach, the German defenses were almost completely intact. This is the specific failure point the B-1B was built to fix. GPS-guided munitions don't care about clouds. The crew doesn't need to see the bunker. They just need the coordinates, and those come from pre-mission planning against fixed positions that Allied reconnaissance had photographed for months. Every position at Omaha had a Widerstandsnest grid reference. Every grid reference becomes a target. The Bone hits these in sequence from an altitude where the German flag is purely decorative. The combat record tells you exactly what this looks like in practice. In Afghanistan, 8 B-1Bs launched 3,000 miles from their targets, flying missions that lasted over 16 hours. They loitered above firefights in the Hindu Kush, operating as a flying artillery battery that ground troops could call on at any moment. No other platform came close. Fighters needed multiple refueling cycles just to cover the same ground. B-52s lacked the B-1 speed and payload density. While the Bone flew fewer than 10% of interdiction sorties, it dropped over 40% of all coalition bombs in the first 6 months of the war. We're talking 3,000 JDAMs, or roughly 67% of every precision-guided bomb that the United States dropped in that entire period. In Iraq, it was the same story. The Bone flew less than 1% of combat sorties, but delivered 43% of all precision-guided weapons. It's a figure that still doesn't look real, no matter how many times you read it. Back to Normandy, let's apply that to Omaha. The beach stretched 5 miles. The defensive network covering every foot of it was 8 concrete artillery bunkers, 35 pillboxes, along with a smattering of anti-tank guns, mortar pits, Nebelwerfer rocket launchers, machine gun nests, and tank turrets. Each position was interlocked, with each one pre-sighted on the waterline and every exit off of the beach. Several were reinforced concrete structures designed specifically to survive a naval bombardment, which they did. The B-1B carries the largest conventional weapons payload of any U.S. bomber, a maximum of 24 2,000-pound JDAMs or 48 500-pound JDAMs. Not enough to hit every position, but more than enough to hit the ones that matter. The 8 concrete artillery bunkers, the guns' positions covering the draws, the interlocking positions that turned Omaha's exits into kill zones. In 1944, clearing those required infantry fighting uphill through direct fire. In this scenario, it requires a targeting list, a weapon sequencing plan, and about 40 minutes of flight time. WN-62, where gunner Heinrich Sieverloh, by his own account in his memoir, fired approximately 13,500 rounds into landing craft, is gone before the first ramp drops. The draws are cleared. The interlocking fields of fire that made Omaha a slaughterhouse, broken. There is one constraint that doesn't go away. The B-1 cannot talk to anyone in 1944. Its radios operate on frequencies that don't exist yet. It has no forward air controller on the beach. There's no way to receive updated targeting from the fleet, and no real-time information about which positions are still active once the landing craft hit the water. It can destroy everything on the pre-mission targeting map. What it cannot do is improvise with the army that it has no radio contact with. The men are on their own from the moment the ramp drops. The outcome is still meaningful. The 1st Infantry Division hits a completely different beach. Not an easy one by any stretch of the imagination. There's still plenty of mines, obstacles, and German soldiers. But the killing system that turned Omaha into a bloodbath before 9 a.m. is gone. The difference is that the B-1B makes the beach assault survivable for the fated first waves. Dave back in England gets a very glowing performance review. Bonus round. So the beach is clear. It's still morning. The Bone has ample reserves of fuel and a whole lot of residual weapons. Now they're staring at their flight computer with the kind of quiet energy that follows just having altered the course of the Second World War before breakfast. They decide to fly on. You see, they paid attention in history class. They know that on June 6, 1944, Hitler isn't in Berlin. He's at the Berghof, his mountain retreat above Berchtesgaden in Bavaria, a 715-mile jaunt southeast of Normandy. He's asleep. His staff won't wake him. No one wants a grumpy Führer. The Berghof is a mountain villa, not a bunker. The extensive underground complex being constructed around it through 1944 is under construction, though not yet complete. The primary residence is largely above ground and is architecturally impressive, but it's not designed to survive a direct hit from a GBU-31 delivered from an altitude by an aircraft nothing in 1944 can shoot down. The B-1B has the range, the crew has the inclination. It's a minor detour, a milk run. 715 miles there, weapons on target, 715 miles back to England. Dave won't find out until they land. From a pure capability standpoint, the Berghof on June 6, 1944 is not a hard target. Today, the Führer never wakes up from his long snooze. Somewhere in Bavaria, a very confused morning staff stands outside a demolished mountain villa holding a tray of herbal tea with bread and marmalade, wondering what to do next. The boys might be home by Christmas after all. The verdict: In the Lucky Strike scenario, the outcome is a coin flip held together by intelligence quality. Get the targeting right and the German armored response collapses at the pivotal moment. Get it wrong and the B-1 has destroyed some empty buildings in rural France with extraordinary precision. In the ridiculous scenarios, a dairy farm dies for nothing and a U-boat crew gets a great story. In the Berchtesgaden milk run, the scenario that works in the narrowest military sense opens time travel implications nobody in the production team is qualified to unpack. But in the Omaha Beach clearance scenario, the unglamorous, pre-planned, methodical one, the one aircraft does what hundreds couldn't. The Atlantic Wall's deadliest sector stops functioning before the first landing craft drops its ramp, and the men who were supposed to die on that beach mostly don't. Modern warfare didn't just invent destruction, it industrialized certainty, and certainty on the morning of June 6th was the one thing that was missing. Want to know what happens when we send something even less subtle than a B-1B back in time with no rules and no Dave? Watch What If a Single B-2 Bomber Time Traveled to Germany During World War II, or click on this video instead.